I'm David Mencer, Israeli government spokesman. Today is the 20th of March 2024, day 166 of the October 7th war. 166 days, our war aims remain the same. Number one, to destroy Hamas concurrently, to bring home the hostages, and of course, to ensure that Gaza never becomes a threat to us ever again, and providing humanitarian aid to achieve these goals. This will deliver a stinging blow to the Iran terror axis. I want to start today with an update on our casualties from this war. IDF fatalities since the start of the October 7th massacre have unfortunately risen to 593. That is up one since our last briefing on Monday. The people of Israel grieve with the family of Warrant Officer Sebastian Eon, age 51, from Rosh Ayin. Sebastian, as he was called on his ID, but was known as Sabi. Sabi was killed yesterday fighting Hamas. Sabi volunteered for reserve duty. Sabi wrote on Facebook in January, "We have no other home. We have no other possibility of losing. We must win." Sabi was a father. Sabi had recently beaten cancer. Sabi emigrated from Argentina. Sabi gave his life for the people and the state of Israel. There are no words of consolation. We embrace the parents of their dear families, to those who have lost precious heroes, sons and daughters in this war for our existence. The price of war is heavy. It's painful. Each casualty is a world unto itself. May their memories be a blessing forever. Now an update on our efforts to free Gaza from Hamas. The War Cabinet's instructions to the army was to do everything to limit civilian casualties. The ratio of combatants to civilian deaths is now down to less than an unprecedented 1-to-1. Each civilian death is, of course, a tragedy. The security assessment is that 18.5 out of Hamas's 24 battalions have been destroyed. 1.5 battalions remain in central Gaza, with 4 remaining in Rafah. We do not see a way to eliminate Hamas militarily without destroying these remaining battalions. Following a request by President Biden, the Prime Minister has dispatched Minister for Strategic Affairs Ron Dermer, Head of the National Security Council Tzachi Hanegbi, and senior representative from the IDF to the US. The Prime Minister has emphasized his determination to act resolutely to permanently eliminate the remnants of Hamas while providing humanitarian solutions for the civilian population. Now an update on our precise operation against Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists at the Shifa hospital. Over the past day, we've eliminated terrorists, located weapons, including weapons stored near the office of the Shifa hospital director, no less. All the while, we've prevented harm to civilians, to patients, to medical teams, and to medical equipment. We've eliminated 90 terrorists, more than 300 terror suspects detained and questioned at the hospital. That's 300, a phenomenal figure of terror suspects detained and questioned at the hospital itself. 160 suspects have been transferred to Israel. Just yesterday, terrorists fired a launch from northern Gaza at Sderot here in Israel. It fell short in Gaza. The IAF aircraft struck the Hamas terror shaft from where the launch emanated. In central Gaza, the IDF identified a terrorist who was eliminated by sniper fire in Jabalia. The IDF aircraft struck and killed 6 terrorists in Khan Yunis. IDF eliminated 2 terrorists and another who was loading weapons. Next, I want to deal with reports of food insecurity in Gaza head-on. The Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, known as the IPC, made its doomsday predictions just yesterday. COGAT, which coordinates and facilitates humanitarian aid entering Gaza, says the report quotes Hamas figures uncritically. This is the same of Hamas, of course, that claims that Jews are the descendants of pigs and monkeys. So a report outdated even before its publication, is parroted internationally, and the UN take their word for it. To repeat, COGAT confirms it's a bad assessment based on an out-of-date picture. Just yesterday, 248 trucks carrying humanitarian aid were inspected by Israel and transferred to Gaza. Only 126 humanitarian aid trucks were distributed by the UN. There is stable food supply in southern Gaza. Markets are bustling. Food stocks are piled up in the aid agency warehouses. In northern Gaza, where 10 to 15% of Gazans remain, better distribution is necessary. But our proactive measures are providing relief. Let's be clear, Hamas's objective is to create an image of a humanitarian crisis. Where there is hunger in Gaza, it is hunger orchestrated by Hamas. These are the images they create. These are the images they want you to see. I can guarantee 3 things. Number 1, no one in Hamas is hungry. Number 2, Hamas and other criminal and terrorist gangs steal the aid. And number 3, Hamas wants to maximize the suffering of ordinary Gazans. Why? To stop the war, to protect their own skins, not ordinary Gazans. So today and every day, there is no limit to the amount of aid that can be delivered into Gaza, by land, by air, and now even by sea. That brings us to the end of today's briefing. I will now take your questions in the chat. Please state your news outlet. Thank you very much.
The first question is by Joe Pollack from Breitbart News. The IDF said that it eliminated senior Hamas operatives in Rafah on Monday, yet there is a public debate between the US and Israel about whether and how Israel should operate in Rafah at all. Was this mission cleared with the US, and is it sending a message that Israel intends to operate in Rafah regardless?
Joel, thank you very much for your question. What, of course, it does stress, and what it does prove to be true, is that Hamas is the last Rafah is the last stronghold of Hamas. It was from Rafah that we rescued 2 of our precious hostages. We believe many of the hostages are in Rafah. We know that 4 battalions are in Rafah. We will always try and work with our best friends, our good friends, the Americans, to make sure that we are on the same page. And more often than not, we are on the same page. But the Prime Minister has been very, very clear. There is no safe refuge for Hamas anywhere in Gaza. We will go after them wherever they are. Now, the Prime Minister has made a very important point of sending 2 or 3 of his closest advisors to Washington, D.C. to meet with the Biden administration, which of course is the right thing to do. Any other questions regarding practical considerations about this operation should be, of course, addressed to the IDF.
Another 2 questions by Hannah Julian from the Jewish Press. First, the IDF has confirmed that a long-range land attack cruise missile fired by the Houthis landed in the area north of Eilat, close to the city. Does Israel intend to respond to this clear escalation? And the second question is, the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is planning to arrive in Israel on Friday following his visit to Saudi Arabia and Egypt. Can you tell us about his itinerary in Israel and whether his visit will have any effect on IDF plans to enter Rafah?
Thank you very much, Hannah, for your questions. First, on the Houthis, I won't obviously be discussing our plans, our military actions to counter the threat from the Houthis. Needless to say, the Houthis are, of course, part of the axis of Iran's axis of evil, which is trying its hardest to destabilize our region. We, of course, in Israel, reserve the right to deal with anyone that means us harm. And experience has shown that when Iranian proxies or Iran themselves try to do harm to us, they will feel the pressure of the IDF. On the question of the schedule of Secretary of State Blinken, I don't have any details of that, so I have nothing more to share with you. Thank you. That was the last question. So please join us tomorrow for the next briefing at the same time at 3:30 Israeli time. In the meantime, please do be safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.